Hello, everyone. Welcome to a breaking news edition of the Unsure Sports Podcast. I'm Raffi. Today, big news dropped last night. Seth Jones is now a member of the Florida Panthers. He has been traded from the Chicago Blackhawks in a very surprising trade. I, for one, was not expecting this trade to happen. I thought this trade was certainly going to happen this offseason when more teams had cap flexibility. But Seth Jones made it very clear over the past week that he wanted out, and the Blackhawks were able to come away being pretty solid winners. I'm really happy with the package. So let's get into the trade, but first, as always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel. We really would appreciate it if you guys subscribe to our channel and just follow us along the journey. So let's get into the trade. So to the Florida Panthers, a 2026 fourth round pick, Seth Jones. Now should be noted as well that there is some salary retention, 26% retained, which amounts to $2.5 million. So Seth Jones' cap hit will be $7 million. So that goes to the Florida Panthers. And then coming back to the Chicago Blackhawks, goaltender Spencer Knight, and a 2026 conditional first round pick. That condition is largely based on the Matthew Tkachuk trade from a year ago or 2 years ago now, I believe at this point, where if the current 2025 pick that the Panthers trade to the Flames, if that pick winds up being a top 10 pick this year, then the Panthers will give the Calgary Flames a 2026 first round pick. But in all likelihood, the Panthers are not going to be picking in the top 10 this year. So in all likelihood, the 2025 pick this year will go to the Flames, and then the 2026 pick will go to the Blackhawks. So there's a little condition thrown in there. I know that trips people up, but that is essentially how the deal will work. And to most people wondering how this pick is going to be given to the Blackhawks, which one, is likely going to be that 2026 first round pick. So let's get into it. Overall, I think both teams should be pretty happy about this deal. We'll first get into the Florida Panthers side of things. The Panthers, they lost Brandon Montour after winning the Stanley Cup. He signs with the Seattle Kraken, so their defense certainly took a step back. Also with the loss of Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And it seemed like they really just had a top pair of Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad and really could use some reinforcement on their top four when they're trying to go back to back this year. And Seth Jones is exactly that. Seth Jones is not someone I would consider as your number one defenseman. He could be a solid number two defenseman, but in my mind, he's best suited as a if if you're in a pinch, a solid, reliable second line or second D man on your team, but you'd prefer him to be your third best D man if you're a contending team, and that's exactly what he is for the Florida Panthers. He can take a lot of minutes. We've seen in the past consistently playing 25 minutes plus for the Blackhawks from a night to night basis, and he does make his fair share of mistakes from time to time. But at $7 million for the next 5 years, you have a cost controlled top four D man who can run your second power play unit, can provide offense, and also play pretty solid on the back end as well, and take some of that load off your top pair in Forsling and Ekblad. Another thing, too, is Ekblad is an expiring unrestricted free agent come this offseason. The Panthers still haven't agreed to terms yet on an extension with him, so this could potentially also be used as a bargaining point for negotiations where they can tell Ekblad, we do technically have your replacement. We technically don't need you. So we'll see what happens. But I think in theory, a 1-2 punch of Ekblad and then Jones as your 1-2 on the right side, I think is pretty solid for the Florida Panthers. And they can certainly afford to keep both. And once again, for the Panthers, you're trying to go all in. You need a backup goalie necessarily when you're competing for a Stanley Cup. You already have Sergei Bobrovsky, who is a year after year, he's shown that he can win big playoff games, especially the last 2 years as the Panthers have gone back to back to the Stanley Cup final. Last year, obviously, they won the Stanley Cup. So when you're a team that's trying to perennially win the Stanley Cup, the backup goalie position is really a position that doesn't mean too much for you. The Panthers are going to make the playoffs regardless this year. They have their starting goalie. So Spencer Knight is a young goalie. He was slated as the future in net for the Florida Panthers, but for them to move on from him, I don't think they're really missing out on too much. And then that 2026 first round pick, it's going to be likely in the back half. And let's be honest, if whoever takes that pick does hit on that player, they're likely not coming to the NHL until close to 2030. And at that point, who knows if the Panthers are still competing. So for the Panthers, who are win now, I think this move makes a lot of sense for them. And I really like this deal for the Panthers. Moving over to the Blackhawks, as a Blackhawks fan, I really like this deal for the Blackhawks as well. The Blackhawks have two young goaltender prospects in Adam Guyon, and they also drew Comesso. Comesso's in the AHL. Guyon is at Minnesota Duluth. And both goalies have shown some flashes. They've both been taken in the second round in the 2020 and 2023 drafts, but I don't really see either of them as a number one caliber goalie. I think at their peak, they're a tandem goalie, and neither of them, they both struggled recently. So I wouldn't have put all my eggs in either of their baskets and slated them as the number one goalie of the future. They do have Arvid Soderblom, though, who's been really good this year. Has had a breakout year after what last year was, which he played absolutely terrible. He's 25 years old. And regardless, picking up Spencer Knight, who's 23 years old, turning 24, and cost controlled for another year, will be an RFA after next year. I think the Blackhawks made a good trade here, picking up their goaltender of the future, because they have a great defensive pipeline. They have some really solid forwards and are likely going to have another high caliber forward upcoming in the NHL draft. They'll likely use it on probably forward Michael Misa, maybe Higgins or Martone. We'll see if they get the first overall pick and get Schaefer, but that's a whole another debate for another day. But in all likelihood, they're going to get another really solid top six forward upcoming in this NHL draft. So to address their biggest weakness, which was their goaltending position, picking up a young goalie in Spencer Knight who can really develop with this team, I think is a really good addition. And then you pick up a first round pick too. Personally, although the Blackhawks have been racking up a lot of picks, I would not be shocked if this first round pick got flipped as soon as this week, just because the Blackhawks have so many prospects already in the system. They have so many picks. I think now is the time where the Blackhawks are going to start to look for some more immediate help. And this 2026 first round pick, I can certainly see getting flipped for some more immediate help. Another 22, 23-year-old forward who's on the up and coming and will likely be a full-time NHLer or showing some flashes of being a future NHLer. Look at what Montreal has done the past couple of years, where they traded a first round pick for Kirby Dach. That hasn't really worked out, but you get the idea. And then they trade 2 seconds for Alex Newhook. So you kind of get the idea. I expect the Blackhawks to start doing that too, either this week or as we get into the offseason as well. And then also for the Blackhawks as well, you have now $40 million this offseason. You'd have to imagine if Marner or Rantanen hits open market, the Blackhawks are going to be all in on one of them. Hopefully they get one of the two, but I'd obviously love both of them. And then Ehlers, Besser, there's a plethora of really solid forwards for the Blackhawks to pursue to really get a solid player to play alongside Connor Bedard. That's probably, alongside picking up a new coach, is likely going to be their second biggest thing that they have to address this offseason. So once again, overall, I think this is a really good deal for both sides. $2.5 million retained for the next 5 years. Not ideal, but for this package, I think it's certainly worth it. And then with the cap continuously going up and up by 2030, when the last year of this retention, $2.5 million is essentially going to be $900K, and I don't even know if the Blackhawks are going to really be cap strapped even at that point. So overall, I really don't have any complaints for the Blackhawks side of things, and I think both teams really addressed their immediate needs with this trade. And I think it really worked out for both sides. I know it's boring to not declare a winner, but I think it's completely fair to say both teams won this trade. The Panthers get their immediate help now. The Blackhawks get some help for the future, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of days as the trade deadline approaches. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who do you think won this trade? Do you think both teams won this trade? Are you a part of the small percentage of people who think both teams lost the trade? Although I highly doubt this. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, and we'll see what happens. Trade deadline's getting closer and closer. So with that, as more trades come out, I'll be sure to break them down as well on this podcast. So once again, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and I'll talk to you again soon. See ya.